God damn it. I'm gonna lose my shoe. Yep. My frickin' shoe. Where's the Asterisk Medical crew? Help a man in distress. My shoe is lost in the mud. Doesn't anybody care? It's a $100 shoe.
Dylan, that's the right trophy. You're the first loser. Dude, this is your trophy. No, it's yours. I can't swore you won. Yeah, get used to seeing this French ass in front of you for the rest of the season.
Welcome back, subscribers. This is Johnny Hopper. And this video, I think I'm just gonna go about it a little bit differently. I need to banter. I need to get some stuff off my chest, and I'm pretty good at digressing. So stick around if you want to hear me not just criticize, but this time I'm gonna talk about potentially solutions as well. Please, by the two-stroke gods, start. I give up. So the first major thing that I wanted to talk about was the Osborne incident. And I've got nothing against Osborne whatsoever. The dude deserved to win. He worked his ass off. As much as we think these guys like mud races, I doubt they like mud races. I know the privateers like mud races.
Fuck yeah, I do. This Honda eats ass more than Ronnie Mac does.
Because it levels the playing field and they might be seen. They might be able to get a top 10. We saw a lot of riders, Jared Lesher, Chase Feelong, Stank Dog, and many others that had some astronomical performances before they might have made a mistake or their bike blew up. And that's a completely other topic as far as $250 for 40th, and maybe inside the top 10 you're looking at like $1,000 a moto to risk your $10,000 dirt bike for $2,000. It doesn't make sense. Risk versus reward, not just the safety aspect, but the financial aspect is just, it's pathetic. It's sad. But backtracking a little bit back to Osborne, if you guys didn't know, if you probably saw it on TV, they went over and over and over again talking about he was lucky to be in practice B. He was able to be in practice B. The narrative was he was able to, but there was no real transparency as to why. And all the privateers know that, hey, if Johnny Hopper was racing practice B, or I was signed up, or I was designated to run qualifying practice B, I don't really feel that I would have been able to be allowed to, hey, I need a switch because my bike blew up. I don't feel I would have gotten the same treatment. And I think a lot of others feel the same way because it's a real gray area. I just wanted the...
It's Johnny Hopper with Cooksey Media and MX Unfiltered. Zach, this one's for you, man. First and foremost, congratulations on the win, but is there any way you can elaborate a little bit more on qualifying? I know the rules state that if you are in Group A, you got to stay in Group A. Do you feel fortunate given the opportunity to ride Group B where a rider not of your caliber might not have been given the same chance?
I mean, I don't know, about other people's chances. For sure, I'm happy that I got to race today.
Taking nothing from you, man. Awesome job.
Televised, broadcasters, something, some press release to come out saying, hey, here's the reason, here's what happened, here we go. Did other teams protest? I'm sure other teams protested. I reached out a little bit, and I'll tell you the response I got. But the rule states that page 12 of the AMA Motocross Rulebook, Section C, classes will be seated based on timed qualifying. Class riders will be divided into two practice/time qualifying groups, Group A and Group B. Riders in practice Group A must participate in time qualifying Group A. Riders in Group B must participate in time qualifying Group B. It doesn't say anything about being able to switch at a discretion, nothing like that. And potentially I'm just speaking overlooking some sort of a rule that's in plain writing. I couldn't find it. I wasn't able to see it. So it's a gray area. And below it, in Appendix D, it says riders must have at least one time posted or complete one lap during time qualifying session in order to compete for the national motos. So that's what Rockstar Husky was trying to do, was just get him out there because he's a top 10 seeded rider. He's already seeded in, but he just has to make that one lap. As a fan, I feel hell yeah. I'm glad Osborne was able to race. Absolutely. We have another guy up there that is capable of winning races, proves that he's won races. He's won 3 in a row at this point as far as overalls go. Yeah, you need to do whatever you can to get him out there and do that. And his team, they're going to try to do whatever they can, get in the middle of the rules, whatever gray area it might be, use it to their advantage. That's what racing is about. But it's the officials, the people behind the sport of motocross that need to be a little bit more transparent with this. Interesting. So, after the press conference, the next morning, the Weege, can I call him Weege? Are we close enough? Anyway, on Sunday, he made another little video and was a little bit more transparent about it. So I want to say thank you to Jason Wygant and Racer X.
Unless you watch practice, where his bike wouldn't run. And yes, we only had one practice today because it rained so much they canceled the first practice session, and they also canceled the last chance qualifier race to get a gate. And the rule is that even if you're in the top 10 in points, you have to complete one qualifying lap, no matter how slow it is, to get in. And they could not get Osborne's bike fixed. He ends up riding the B practice, which came later. That gave the team enough time to get the bike fixed. But I did hear that the folks at Kawasaki went through the rulebook to see if a rider can legally switch practices, and the rulebook says you cannot. However, this is I'm going to try to pronounce this right, a force majeure act of God situation. Remember, that rule holds because normally you have 2 practice sessions and an LCQ to get the bike fixed and get in. In this case, he only had one 15-minute session and a 5-minute free practice right before that, so really only 20 minutes. So because the practices were cut, they did not enforce the you can't change practices rule.
And just giving the guys behind closed doors, the guys behind motocross, the benefit of the doubt, I'd like to think that they would do it for $875, not just the number 1 or whatever. If you were 3-digit, I would like to think that they would try to do that. But everything I talk about on my channel, and if you guys saw my privateer presser, the riders don't really feel like they've got a whole lot of self-worth in this sport. Yeah, the guys at the very top are being treated extremely well. The guys at the very bottom, they might as well be the guys on the corner with a cardboard cutout saying, please sponsor me. I know that's kind of a fucked up analogy, but it's the truth. So I want to know what you guys think in the conversation below. I'm just pointing out what the rulebook says and what physically happened, and that the coverage didn't really show any transparency. And so if you saw the press conference, I was open with Zach Osborne, and he did a very good political response because the question wasn't really towards Zach, because he's a rider. That's his job. He's going to do it. And if I was in his shoes, if I was lucky enough to be in his shoes, oh, fuck yeah, I would do the same thing. But I couldn't really ask MX Sports, so I'm happy that they were able to post it with a little bit of transparency, because I think drama just helps this whole sport, and that's what we need. Because anyway, I'm going on a tangent here. I'm digressing, but we all know. Well, I warned you guys at first that that's what this video was going to be about. And just back to the whole privateer deal, where these guys, it's $2,500 to win a pro motorcycle moto. So for Barsha to win that Moto 1, $2,500. Whoop stinking do. There's something else going on here. And yes, this isn't the perfect time to be going about this because of the whole COVID, and we're lucky to have a series, and I'm very fortunate that we have a series. And it's never really probably a good time to ask for change or expose change. And I guess my solution, and I've asked some of the riders, would be we need to get a better TV schedule. We need to somehow get more sponsors involved. And I know a lot of corporate big sponsors, you know, Apple, Nike, NVIDIA, just these big, huge corporations, whether they're in the tech center or Coolers, Bud Light, whatever it may be, they don't want to sponsor the sport of motocross and supercross. And why is that? Is it because we have small space that you're paying for on a motorcycle? Well, I don't know. You know, I could see that, but we're bigger than IndyCar series here, but they have huge corporate sponsors, but they have a lot more room on their cars in order to give back to their sponsors per se, because that's what they're paying for, is they're paying for advertisement. So I guess my solution would be, could we just have a whole gear set up for Coca-Cola or something? You know, back in the 90s, Jeremy McGrath had the Bud Light Yamaha, and it was very apparent. I was a little kid, and I remember Bud Light being all over his shrouds. Like, that was the one thing you saw. Is that potentially a solution to get more corporate sponsors so that we don't have some of these smaller corporations coming in, like Circle K for sponsoring this one national, Guaranteed Rate Mortgage sponsoring the next? We need some bigger guys that are playing in the world to grow this sport. So that's potentially one solution, is we need to somehow get bigger sponsors. And I know Chad Reed has been adamant about, hey, how come I can't have the CBD stuff on here? This is a sport for youth. You know, we don't need to have Bud Light and Camel. There is an argument for that, but it's synonymous to think these guys aren't going to be taking that when they're racing. I mean, most of the energy drinks are filled with water at the end of the day, because the last thing they want to do is down a huge monster when it's 100 degrees outside and there's 100% humidity. And then the other argument is just the pay. I know I continue to talk about the pay, but I can win more money at a local motocross race than I can at a national, because I'm not going to be top 10 at a national to be able to win $800 a moto. At a local motocross race, I could win 150, 250 a moto, and I could run Open Pro, 2 motos, 450 Pro, 2 motos, 250 Pro. I could run Open Pro, 450 Pro, 250 Pro, and have 6 motos and come out ahead with a little over $1,000. Or I could do an off-road race and win $600 to $800. And I don't have to spend $800-900 to get to the race. And the other dumb thing is I don't have to pay for the purse. Every rider, all 76 of them, sometimes 90 of them when the rules are different, pay $250 to $350 to sign up for the national. That right there covers a good portion of the purses for the motos. It's not outrageous to be, hey, could NBC Sports Gold package for $80 for the viewers to watch, a small percentage, 1/10 of 1%, something, go to the riders? I know I would be happy, more than happy, to pay that, because I would know where my money is going. It's going to the riders that I enjoy watching. Like, I'm giving back to the sport. You know, it's not a GoFundMe page. I realize that, hey, this is why you people give money to charities, because they want to see their money do good. Could we do something like that? How hard would it be to do something like that? If you watch my privateer presser, these guys aren't asking for an astronomical, I want $10,000 to race, but yet the factory guys, they could give 2 shits about the purse money because it's laughable, completely laughable. They couldn't live off the purse money. Yeah, arguably, you probably could $5,000 a weekend. I get it. Yeah, it's a pretty good job. But where their money is coming from sponsors and bonuses from the manufacturer. Yeah, I know we have contingency from Husky and Kawasaki and that sort of thing, but it's not that much. It's like $400 to be in a pro moto. I don't even need to go into it. It's laughable. Would part of your AMA membership, potentially small percentage of it, go to the pros? Could a small percentage of the sports package TV deal go to the pros? I know I wouldn't share one login with my family. Probably my whole family would each have one. So that's between 4 people. Each of us would probably spend $60, $80 because we knew some of our money was going to the pros, not just share one login. I think the sport would make more money there. And then obviously you could go to ticket sales. I know the whole COVID thing, we're not having a whole lot of fans. Yes, I get it. All right. Could we maybe even get some more backing from the manufacturers? Because if you go into any dealership right now, they're all sold out of bikes. Yeah, this is a new phenomenon. This is a new thing. But there's a huge influx of riders right now that have just bought dirt bikes. And they might go, I really enjoy this. How do I get involved? Potentially, maybe the next step is obviously just not destroying, but changing everything from the ground up. Maybe amateur motocross, as far as not having any of the riders skip out on their local promoters, local tracks, and they just skip to go to the amateur nationals that have their own issues and their own problems and do the own good things for the sport. But then they go pro kind of thing, just backtracking. If there was some way to not necessarily force these kids, but entice them to race their local sanctioning district, whether that's in Arizona, Colorado, Florida, Utah, whatever, give a little bit money back to the promoters and the tracks, I feel the sport could grow from the ground bottom up. And then obviously I get the argument that if you're going to give the pros more money, well, it needs to be harder to get your pro license. So I feel the sport needs to innovate before it completely goes under. And I kind of get the impression that we're a sailboat with a bunch of little drill holes in it, and we're just kind of trying to patch them with our fingers and go about our day. And I get the feeling that some people at the top don't want to change much. And here's Johnny Hopper bitching and moaning on a YouTube channel about potentially growing the sport and what we could possibly do and what we might need to do. With that being said, let me know if you guys have any viable solutions and maybe problems that you want to be addressed, because I feel the first step is being open about it and talking. And I am extremely grateful that there's some privateers that are finally starting to speak up and showing their dissatisfaction, because if we don't keep these guys satisfied, there's going to be no nationals. There's going to be no supercrosses. I mean, yeah, I would still pay to go watch Webb and Cooper and Osborne race because they're just the top tier best riders in the world. But there's a lot of guys that, given potentially the same opportunity, could be close or even excel some of these people. And that brings the whole stock class. Could we add maybe another sort of what they do in MotoGP with Moto2, where everyone has a Suzuki? In order to race this class, it's a Suzuki. You have to have a Suzuki. You have to have Dunlop tires. Has to be stock. And you go from there. Maybe not get any TV coverage, something, sort of what they do with the 125 races at the National. Could that be something for, hey, you know what? I can't compete in the national level because it's too expensive. I could go down to the stock class, and if I do well enough, because it's more of a talent-based, then I get a move up. Because if there's anything about amateur motocross and if there's one thing that I see a lot in amateur motocross, is that money can hide raw talent. And yes, it's going to piss off some people, but you know what? I don't give a shit. I believe it wholeheartedly that money can hide raw talent at the amateurs. And then if you give the guy that has been hidden talent a factory ride, he's not going to be your champion. He's going to be the guy that's on the bubble of top 10, 15, 20, where if somebody that had extremely raw talent was given those nice top tier Formula One motorcycles, they could really make something. And there's a disconnect where I feel the amateurs need to be more of like the Formula 3 type series, not what they are today. And that might not be a very good comparison, because in all of racing, there's going to be some politics involved and definitely money swings as far as performance goes. But what I was just saying as far as the stock class goes is if we could have a third race where next year Kawasaki bought the rights and then the next year Yamaha bought the rights, we could still have exposure for those manufacturers. And I think it would just be good for the sport, because there'd be a lot of really talented riders that would fill that race and would be happy to pay that race. I don't feel the 250 class, the 450 class, these guys should have to pay to enter. A stock class, yeah, let's make them pay to enter. Let's show what they got. Close racing, whatever. Being a little bit more lighthearted now, you know, a little bit less on the seriousness, just the race in general. I thought Loretta was a nasty, nasty mud race. You know, they went to a condensed schedule for qualifying, which again brought up some of the other issues, is because you didn't have another practice session, so they had to do something. But again, I'd like to see this in the rule book so that you could instantly flip to it. Oh, got it. I'm not going to make a stinking deal out of it. But if they were willing to do that, potentially could they have maybe turned the motos down? Maybe 25 minutes plus 2? You know, not something not huge. And then, you know, Tomac's bikes would have been able to last the whole time, because I believe his bikes didn't blow up until right around the 30-minute mark. And that's another thing. I feel that his bike blew up Moto 2 because he disrespected her in Moto 1 by tossing her over. A privateer, however, would never have done that, because even though she blew up on him and made him mad and disappointed, and he put all this hard work and effort into that moto, you still don't throw her down, because you still have that small belief that she is not blown up. She just needs to cool down and she's going to be okay, because you don't have another 10 grand to buy another bike, and the last thing you want to do is drop her and then have to spend another $120 on bars. You just don't do that. You drag her back and you plead. Happy wife, happy life. Happy bike, happy moto. So, I think the Kawasaki was mad at Tomac in Moto 2, and she decided to let go again, prematurely. No pun intended. And you saw riders, and pretty much in both classes, it was all about goggle strategy, because you had to have a good goggle strategy, because guys came in once or twice. I can't believe RJ won that first moto with no goggles after minute like 13. To me, his eyes are probably burning, hurting. We saw Dylan come in, grabbed goggles, and was able to finish. You know, the series is long. You don't want to damage your eyes because of a rock or something. I don't agree with that, what he did, but he was able to win. So that's what these guys are willing to do. They're willing to risk everything, even their eyeballs, to win $1,500. Again, no pun intended. And I gave a lot of shit to the Yamahas and the Suzukis, but those were the bikes that were out front. It was cool to see a huge mix-up both motos, because it seems starts were extremely important, because off that start, as soon as you get splashed, you got water in your goggles, you can't see a damn thing. And it made it pretty much hard for the rest of the moto. And how gnarly Loretta is, pretty much slot car racing, ruts were going from 2 corners, sometimes even 3 corners. You were pretty much stuck in the particular line. So I don't know how I feel about racing wise, because I think there was a little bit better racing. It just didn't look as fast because they were having to go slow and they were rolling through the 10 commandments. And you have to talk about Anstein being out front in that second moto, almost to the end before Lapper got in his way and Osborne was able to get around him. I felt really bad for this dude, and you know, I've talked some shit about the Hemp Suzuki, but I guess any of those Suzukis, if you have the right rider on them, you could get the job done, like Alex Martin and Max Anstein. And I was really surprised at how many privateers even lined up for the races. I know if my dad was still around and I was lucky enough to be in the motos, we would have been like, no, We are not risking blowing that up for $500. We're gonna sit our asses down and we'll let somebody else do it. We'll live another day. It's just really sad. I'm all in a weird mood now. I don't have any more jokes. I don't really know what else to talk about when it comes to the race. And it was a mud race. Motorcycles blew. People won. Fans went on. They're going to Ironman now, which if it rains again is going to be the same deal because that track is gnarly, rutted, and with the shadows, it's its own other animal. It's sort of another Loretta with some bigger jumps and more elevation. I think the race was pretty much about starts and goggle strategy and making sure your bike didn't go kaboom. Pretty much the moral of the whole racing. This was another long video. We'll see if I'm allowed in the press conference on Monday. And yeah.